Hi, I'm Erin Adams. I'm a caseworker with 4 Oaks.
And I'm Estrella Pro. I'm also a caseworker. Both Erin and I have been caseworkers since 2017. And Erin's going to talk to you a little bit about what we do as caseworkers, our role, and how this differentiates with the DHS worker who's also in our future foster homes.
As your 4 Oaks Family Connections caseworkers, we're the ones that reach out to you after you've applied to become a licensed family, whether it's for a foster license, an adoption approval, or even we do get relatives as well. We're the ones that'll reach out to you after you've had your fingerprints completed. For some families, we are working with them from before they get their backgrounds completed. And then we introduce ourselves. Different from DHS is the one who is working the case plans for birth parents, going to court for the children and advocating for their most immediate needs. They're the ones who work the closest with birth families and the ongoing of the DHS case. We're subcontracted with DHS to provide licensing support for our licensed families. And that can look like many different things. It's a pretty big role.
So kind of what Erin is summarizing is that how we explain to our families is that DHS really follows the kid and works with the birth parents and all other services regarding what is happening with the child and specific supports and services the child needs to be successful with reunification. And our role as caseworkers with the 4 Oaks contract is to ensure that the foster homes or duly licensed homes or even relative placement homes who are interested in somebody that they know are safe and are meeting the criteria for licensing and approval. So when DHS calls us and says, hey, I would like to place this kid in one of your foster homes, we can say, yep, they're great. They have met all the safety requirements. They are ensuring good communication, and they are truly on board for reunification efforts for children as appropriate. So I guess more to that too is when we come out as workers, Erin said that we're sending fingerprint cards and some documentation and some correspondence beforehand. After you are signed up in class and getting everything going, we really dive into learning about our families and how they interact and what their routines are and what makes them so great, and maybe some things that they could work on, do a little bit better. The honesty piece just helps us make families stronger and more prepared for fostering. So we go in and do 3 home study visits. The first one is typically to discuss their motivation, interests, see if they even meet the criteria of where they're living, how many other kids are in their home, other adults in the home, and what they kind of expect from fostering. And we kind of break down the realities of how amazing and how needed it is, but also how very challenging it is. We go through paperwork, do a full tour of the house, and by full tour, I mean we're looking in refrigerators and in cabinets and understanding where everybody sleeps and other safety precautions in that manner. By our second visit, we're really getting to know our families, understanding their full history. A social history is usually what caseworkers call it, where we're understanding the dynamics of their family and how they're raised and really what makes them who they are today, and how those skills and experiences, both positive, negative, and neutral, are going to help them be the most effective foster parents that we can support them to be. And then by our last visit, we're really finalizing information, getting small things, last minute paperwork, homework from class, doing another walkthrough, making sure everything is the same. So that way when we're ready to say, yes, this family, we feel and we fully support, they are ready to be foster parents, well, as ready as they could be, and kind of dive in that they feel like they have all their questions answered and we can feel confident that we're having safe homes.
Yeah, and just to add to that, the home study process and applying and going through class, it can all be extremely overwhelming. And so when we're doing our home studies, we do our best to try and and make it as simple as possible. So it is an overwhelming process with lots of paperwork, lots to learn. But as your For Oaks Family Connections caseworker, we're really trying to stick with the one caseworker model where we're the ones coming into your home to do the home study process, which includes talking about many sensitive subjects. And then through licensure, we're going to be the one to continue being your support person for your foster or adoptive license. So that means throughout the process, once you're licensed, we're keeping in at least monthly contact with you. If you have a kiddo placed in the home, we're out there at least every other month, sometimes plenty times more. And we have some families, just based on your support needs, we might be in frequent contact with you. And so we really do our best to walk you through it, to kind of ease you and just kind of support you along the way, eliminate any fears or anxieties when we can. Once families are licensed, I mean, families call us just to vent at times, and we're happy to walk families through whatever crisis they're experiencing, offer support, set up a powwow when needed to have a meeting of the minds. We're really there to support you and help you to be successful. Sometimes that involves hard conversations, and there's nothing wrong with that because that creates growth. I like to let families know that I want to do my best to prepare you for something, even though you will never be fully prepared because it's something that you really have to experience for yourself. I also reiterate quite a bit that this is hard. This is really, really hard. It's really hard. So we're talking about your support system, what your self-care looks like, the strength of your relationships, and what's really going to help you maintain, because we do want families. We want as many families to apply and come on board as we can. But it does require a lot of being realistic and understanding that this is super challenging because we're trying to make a difference in the lives of kids.
Yeah, I would say 100%. I think the biggest piece, regardless of what interest of behaviors or ages or what other criteria you feel works best in your home, we try to prepare our families to be as trauma informed as possible. So understanding that kids are coming from a difficult place and they're going through probably the hardest things they've ever experienced, and making sure our foster families are prepared in the sense that this is not the signing up to go take someone to the park and change their life and fix a kid, but to truly support them and help them get to where they need to be and add some stability. Did you want to talk about like the different families that come in?
Yeah, so we have families that come in for a dual license, which means they're seeking a foster license with adoption approval. It doesn't necessarily mean that their motivation is just to adopt. It means that if the opportunity should present themselves, that they would be approved for adoption. When fostering, whether you have a dual license or solely just a foster license, meaning you're not interested in adoption, the primary goal of fostering is always reunification. So from day one and almost throughout the entire time that we're supporting you, we're going to talk about the importance of being supportive of reunification. It's certainly an expectation of all of our foster families. We do have families who are adopt only, and that's a wonderful thing too. What I tell families who are leaning just towards adoption and are considering a dual license, it's one thing, it's very important to be supportive of reunification. And so sometimes there are families who only want to adopt, but think it might be easier if they foster. But there are challenges that will present themselves. And it'll just make it more challenging for them to be supportive, which is what we really want to help. We also have families who are relatives. They may have already been caring for a relative for some time as a suitable other placement, or they might be wanting to get a license in the event a relative should be coming to them. For those, we consider them to be child specific. And so we get you sometimes it's a dual license, sometimes it's an adopt only license. And then once that happens and the case goes towards adoption and adoption is finalized, our relative only families tend to close out their license.
Yeah, with the intent that they are coming through specifically for a child that they know, whether it's a relative or perhaps the Department of Human Services wanted to place a kid who is a neighbor that they're close to into their home. So then we're still doing the same process with our families, regardless if they are relative only or primarily are seeking adoption. It's the same process, and we still heavily focus on reunification efforts are always the goal and need to be prioritized until they are no longer an option.
We also do Icpc home studies, which involves interstate compacts. That's when a child might be coming to a relative from out of state. And so it's very similar to if we were licensing anyone for foster or adoption. There's just a few differences in terms of paperwork and what that looks like, but it's very similar, and it's more direct communication between us and DHS licensing, and then DHS licensing is the one that's interacting with the other state.
Is there anything that you think we're forgetting? I think for the most part, just, working with us, and the biggest takeaway is having communication. If there's questions, always reach out. You can ask us more than one time. Yep. We're not going to be angry about it. And knowing that, we serve a lot of families with different crises going on, with different needs, different levels of support, and completely different situations. So we do our best to ensure everyone feels as supportive as possible. And when we feel like we can't meet the need or that someone else can meet the need better, we definitely expand on our services and reach out to different providers or supervisors to find those resources for our families. Just again, everything is to make sure our foster families and other families are as supported and feel they can do as best as possible to care for the kids that come into their home.
Right. As overwhelming as the process can be, we want you to know that you're not in it alone, and we are here to support you. Communication is key, of course. When I am licensing a family, I encourage them to write down all questions that they have, just so that they can have them there so we can answer them when we get the opportunity. Yeah. Foster families who have either a dual license or a foster only license, they have ongoing training requirements that happen each year. So it's 6 hours per person. We are always talking to our foster families about what their training needs are, helping them identify trainings that might help them maximize their skill set or help improve where there's needs. And everybody has needs. So there's always lots to learn. It's definitely a learning curve. It comes through experience for the most part, but we do our best to prepare you. It's certainly a journey, and we would say it's not for the faint of heart, but so many people can make a difference, and that's what it's all about.
Okay, thank you.